Great, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for letting us set up the scene here. As I've said, we're going to have a very interesting panel where we're going to discuss the limits of innovation. We're going to try and find out if there is such a thing. We're going to talk about innovation from a business perspective, from a policy perspective. We're going to talk about it, of course, from a human perspective. And for this, I have some guests here on stage with me that I'd like to welcome. First of all, we have Dragoș Preda, who is the CEO of Radiocom. Thank you so much, Dragoș, for being here today. I know you have a very busy schedule. In fact, I just want to let the audience know that Dragoș isn't going to be with us until the end of the panel, unfortunately. And this is why I'll give him some extra attention at the beginning. Dragoș, welcome and thank you again for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Next up, we have Lucian Ungureanu, who is the Cloud Business Group Lead at Microsoft. Hello, and thank you for being here with us today.
Hello, thank you, and glad to be here.
Thank you. Next, you've already met Tobias Matter, the head of Bosch Engineering Center at Cluj. Thank you for being with us for another panel here.
For sure. Thanks a lot.
Okay, cool. After this, we have Alin Turcu, Mobile Community Manager at Cognizant Softvision. Alin, thank you very much.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. And last but not least, of course, we have Vlad Vodea, the co-founder of Bento, Intellectually Curious. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Thank you. I'll get right into business, so to say, and basically let you guys brag about the things that you're doing at the companies and organizations that you work with. So I want to ask you, what is the most recent product or initiative that you would call innovative? And Dragoș, I'd like to start with you. What is it that you do at Radiocom? I think people are slightly...
Beyond managing, no?
Yeah.
Well, talking about innovation in state-owned companies, it's a little bit difficult. We have to be honest with that. Everybody watches the state and the pace the state runs the business compared to the private sector. What I tried since the beginning is to impose such a state that even the business, sometimes we have some partnerships that we launched recently and they are saying that I'm going too fast. So the whole idea is, in fact, to come with the best results in time. Otherwise, you don't cope with the market. You don't play the game. Since 2011, I'm part of Millennium Project because I was listening to the previous panelist, the speaker from Denmark, and. Since 2011, I'm part of Millennium Project, United Nations University, Smithsonian Institute on Future Studies. I was just talking with Alex that GoTech had among its speakers, I think 1 year or 2 years ago, Rohit Avar, who is Fast Future Publishing in London. He's a very dear friend of mine. And at that time, we wrote a study, a global study on future work, future of technology. And the newest study on that, it happened in 2020. I was not anymore part of that study because at that time I was Minister of State Secretary for Telecom. Everybody talks about digitalization. And everybody thinks nowadays that they understand digitalization and generally it goes like a buzzword. We are living the digital transformation. But where is the place for telecom? That's the interesting idea about our discussion, and I'm happy that I'm in the same panel with entities like Bosch. You are very much involved, and I know your projects here in Romania with the smart communities. I always said, Eduard Dumitrașcu from the Smart Cities Association always sides me because I don't want to talk anymore about smart cities we have to talk about smart communities because we are addressing the communities, the people. This is one thing, and the other thing is that with companies like Microsoft, I've been working a long time in this issue. We talk so much lately about the cloud, but we don't really understand the purpose of that cloud because we don't do the right analysis, what we need to take into that cloud, the database that we need to export to that cloud. And everybody says, okay, we need like a hybrid type of cloud, but nobody watches, and they give the example of UK, but UK has also a cloud, a state-governed cloud, that it's only for the state issues. So we have to understand all and the overarching vision of the developments. So talking about innovation, we started doing an innovation in the company from the people to the business case, the new business case that we already put it into our strategy and we already discussed with other partners. And I will brief you on each of those issues quickly. So starting with the people, since I took over the company in summer last year, I raised the salaries because I wanted to make a competitive environment for the company. Because we need to be competitive with the open market, with the private market. And it was a raise of 15%. But more than this, we launched partnerships with the universities, with the tech universities, in order to attract the new, the new generations to the company. Because our average age in the company for the core business, for the tech issues, is 55 years. So that's a bit of risk for the company. Also, we launched with the academia, we launched several perspectives of researches in the domain. More than this, we looked into because I was just talking in the morning with some people from United States, and they were saying, okay, but you doubled the profit since you took over the company, but the profit is not anymore, an issue. It's also getting involved with the society and investing in the society and in people, and also in energy efficiency. And this company has a big issue with the energy efficiency. We are a very big energy consumer, 75,000 megawatts per year. So we launched the programs in order to address to this energy issue, and we prospected with the project that we launched to switch from the energy consumer, big consumer, to a big producer. And the last one, coming out to innovation, we launched several projects because we are the only ones to have an overarching perspective of what infrastructure means. From AM, FM, and shortwaves that take into consideration the conflicts in the eastern flank of Romania. We saw all the issues that were raised. For example, the BBC said that they will go back to their shortwave infrastructure in order to cope with the crisis, because they are the only one standing in face of any cataclysm or geopolitical crisis. We also are the only ones to have satellite communications, the most secure ones, and we are already prospecting of developing the quantum key distribution of the company. And we also started talking because, everybody last month or 2 months ago when SpaceX flew over our space, everybody say, okay, we have space communications. We are so happy to welcome them. Okay, but what do? We are just welcoming, or we are playing the same game? And what I did, I started talking with the SpaceX in order to develop a collaboration with them. And more than that, my desire and the thing that we are prospecting with them is to create a teleport for them. If you know what's teleport, those antennas, big antennas grouped together. So we are prospecting already to have partnerships with them. But coming up to the end of my intervention, I was just telling Alex and Maxinan, because everything that you see online is written by myself. Nobody writes it to me. So if you have any issue with that, you can raise a hand and blame the guilty one. But 2 weeks ago, I'm launching every 2 weeks. I'm launching a business proposal in the mass media. I was talking about, for the first time in Romania, about security as a service and trust as a service, as new ways, because we have to develop for the people. We have to develop tailor-made. And looking into the presentation the previous panelist launched, there is a big fight in the business case between NetOps and cloud-native solutions. And that, responds to this fight, because I already said it in 2020, that, the infrastructure is not anymore a business case. You have to come up with the services. The infrastructure is just a part of the service that you are launching. And that's how I talked about communication as a service. A third party taking over all your infrastructure and building only a service on a monthly wage, a service that comes up also with that infrastructure, with the security of the infrastructure and many, many other things that can be brought together. So, coming up to the conclusions. 2 weeks ago, I launched a paper on LoRaWAN versus 5G, because Alex said it would be interesting to talk about 5G. In order to develop 5G infrastructure in a country, you need to have the market for that 5G, because of the costs. It's not anymore an end-user infrastructure like 3G, 4G LTE. 5G is addressing an industry. So you need to have the industry to deploy 5G infrastructure. But LoRaWAN is more interesting and easier to build as a national infrastructure to respond to smart communities. So after I've launched that paper, an investment fund contacted me and said, okay, could we build on a joint vision to create this national infrastructure, because there are many operators already developing LoRaWAN. We are also developing LoRaWAN on the western part of the country around Timișoara, but we don't have a national infrastructure of LoRaWAN. So innovation, I think, is the main fuel for a company, anytime, any place. And I think, as any manager should do, I'm listening to youngsters from the company. I'm listening to older ones, and I'm trying to join their visions. For me, time and age is not an issue. I never trusted that. I'm just searching for the most brilliant minds, also in the company. And because there were discussions, okay, are you going to keep those that went into pension? And I'm saying, every time I'm doing an analysis and seeing if they are still good and their brain works perfect, I want to have them in the company, because I need, to create that memory of the company, and also to develop. It takes around 3-4 years to develop a brilliant mind from the faculty to develop it in a right professional in the infrastructure business. So I think innovation is for me, every time it was the trigger for any development, whether we are talking about startups, or we are talking about big businesses, or we are talking about Yes, critical infrastructure that we manage at Radiocom, and that's the reason why I will have to leave early on, because I'm in a panel at the Parliament House on critical infrastructure, and I have to have an intervention also over there. But I'm more than looking forward. I will stay for a few minutes more to listen to the panelists, because I'm very interested on what they are going to say. I never considered myself, in politics. I always stated when I was also Minister, State Secretary, every time I said, I'm not a politician, I'm more a geek. I had two tech startups before joining, this. But we have to have the courage to go to where the problem is in the state. Everybody states it, to put it like that. You have to have the courage to go over there and to do your best in order, to create the right cooperation between those guys that do it in a very rightful pace, and this side of the country that's going too slow. Thank you very much once again. I'm happy to be here because the organizers are very old friends, and we developed together. We had the same visions when we are students, and now we try to impose those visions to our Romanian environment. And thank you very much for everybody joining these discussions. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dragos. You've actually went through all my questions, basically, so I just want to summarize for everyone, because there are a lot of parentheses, right? So at Radiocom, you've invested in people, first and foremost. You've invested in the further education of young people in order to have someone to replace the current employees, maybe, at some point. New technologies?
Not to replace, but to transfer the knowledge.
To transfer the knowledge, not to replace. Yeah, that's... yeah, no one's getting fired, okay. And you also keep in line with developing technologies and all sorts of digital solutions that would fix basically what it is to fix in our country. I have just one more question for you. You've mentioned that that Romania currently needs the industry to need 5G before starting to implement the infrastructure, basically. So what you're saying is we don't have a need at state level for 5G technology at this point, and that it can be replaced by a similar technology that is dedicated only to industries.
No, the need it is.
Okay.
But you have to respond it rightfully. You have to see the business case for that need. I came with an idea from the energy security sector to the infrastructure development sector. And then I said, look, you are developing and you are using resources of energy, taking into consideration the needs of the region, and taking into consideration of also the resources that you have, like, hydro or solar, or I don't know. The same thing you should do in the development of communication infrastructure. You have to see that not for everything you need 5G, because it costs a lot. 5G cannot be developed anymore, like each operator to develop its own infrastructure like it happened before. It would be a shared infrastructure. Also, because you were talking about the legal framework of the country, we need to introduce, and I was talking about that a week ago, because we had the anniversary of 25 years of telecom in Romania, and I said, but we don't have the slice issue in the legislation in Romania. So that's also an issue that we have to take into consideration. So there are many issues that we have to build upon, whether we want to transpose this infrastructure, the 5G infrastructure, rightfully. You need to have the market, you need to have the return on investment, well thought, and those things cannot happen, because, okay, we need to develop the infrastructure, yes. And more than this, for the remote communities, Well, you see, the operators look into the business case. They have the business case for the urban sector, for urban communities, for the cities, but they don't really have the business case for the rural sector, for the remote communities. Over there, you need around 2,000 households to be meaningful for the business case, in order to transpose the infrastructure. So, okay, because there are many communities, and now I'm being a little bit too straightforward in this issue, taking into consideration my position, but I've always been like that. Okay, you build the infrastructure, but you don't have any more juice, like I wanted to say, data transfer for that community, because it's not payable. And there are some communities over there that have this issue. There are some villages that they have the infrastructure, but they don't have the internet. Why? Because it's not interesting for the operators. So what I'm
getting from what you're saying now is that basically you cannot force innovation upon an environment or a context without having the certain needs defined and the good business case.
There is a bias, right? There is a you should see from both sides. You could trigger innovation, you could trigger the development of a market, but also you need to see if that it's it's a good vision that you have, that you want to build that kind of market in a certain place. And more than this, what I've said, and I will end it with that, in 2020, we should stop in Romania to have it in all the communities, to have all the opportunities. What is very important worldwide is that a community builds its own brand of development of innovation, in order, for the people to go and to study in that community, because they have that capabilities, they have that academia at that certain level. What I've said it when developed the digital innovation hubs in 2020, I said, okay, build for example, in Timișoara, build only on 5G. And not build on 5G, on agri-hubs and everywhere. For example, in Brăila, because we are very well known for agriculture in Brăila, build for agri-hubs. So try to connect the developments of technology and innovation to a community and to its traditions. Otherwise, you will have it everywhere, and that will be the value of everything.
Thank you, Dragoș.
Thank you very much again.
I want to move on to Lucian with the original question and ask him what is an innovation you can brag about at Microsoft? What have you brought to the market, or maybe something that you've implemented internally that you would consider innovation and that people here should know about?
Oh, thank you. So, first of all, I was thinking what to answer in the meantime, and it's a difficult question, and I'll tell you why. 3 weeks ago, Microsoft organized Microsoft Build. It's the largest global conference for developers, and we announced 100+ new features and innovations across all our cloud technologies. What you need to know is that most of this we test internally, and we use internally most of these innovations. Funny enough, every Microsoft employee is a tester. For example, every feature that comes to Windows or Office before going public is deployed internally for testing. Now, going back, we should see technology as an enabler and a differentiator. And companies are looking for ways to build business resilience, to innovate, to stay ahead of competition. And technology is here to help them do just that. Technology can help them build their own competitive solutions, their own IP. They can improve productivity and collaboration. And to go back to your question, I would like to touch on 4 technology trends, technologies that I think will shape the future, instead of just one, and briefly go through each of one. It's what we call the ABCD of digital transformation, and I will start with the first one. A comes from AI, and I think artificial intelligence, we think, is the next big shift in the future. It helps us make sense of the ever-growing amount of data that we have. I believe that every business traditionally analyzes customer data, operational data to get some insights, but as the amount of data grows exponentially, this cannot be done without machine learning or AI. The most common applications of AI right now, as we see, are sales recommendations, sales engines, bots, and customer that enable customers to interact with the company, and threat intelligence, threat analysis for cybersecurity. But as we move forward, we see that predictive operations becomes more and more used in every type of business. We see that process automation, intelligent process automation becomes a thing, also risk management, and we see a lot of applications in healthcare. And even in Romania, there are hospitals that can put a diagnosis on analysis that are based on AI recommendations. And Regina Maria is doing that, for example, as we speak on radiology. Now, the second one is big data, and that's what B stands for. And data and big data is the foundation for truly intelligent apps. And if we want to have an AI giving us the right insights, we need to have the right data behind it. Now, we see that data is growing exponentially. As I mentioned, predictions for data volumes are increasing each year. Each year's surveys, studies come out saying that more and more data will be created. The latest one shows us that in 2025, we'll have around 175 zettabytes of data. It's huge. Imagine storing data on a Blu-ray and traveling and stacking them from Earth to the Moon 23 times. This is roughly, just to put into a picture, the amount of data. So huge, huge. The biggest challenge is that most of this data is unstructured and not in a single database. That's where big data comes to help companies store this data and mine it for information. And fortunate for us, there are also tools that can help companies get that unstructured data and bring it together, either by connecting databases together or by migrating them into a data lake or a big data solution. Now, the third one, C stands for cloud. And cloud is not a new concept, but what I think it's a paradigm shift is that companies should not longer be thinking about migrating to cloud. Companies should be cloud native. Cloud native application allows for more flexibility, allows for better innovation and better integration of new features and new innovations inside the application. And lastly, very important today, is more secure. It's a lot easier to secure an application that is cloud native than a hybrid one or an infrastructure one. Public cloud provider invest a lot more in security than any other company can. And that's why I think that cloud, even a public cloud, is far safer than any other location. And the last one, it's devices. This is what D stands for. And I want to go beyond traditional devices like smartphones, tablets that are, let's say, integrated in our lives, and go towards mixed reality devices, augmented reality like HoloLens, virtual reality, which paved the way for innovations like metaverse, and which I believe that is something that we will see a lot more in the near future. And also, let's not forget about IoT devices, because nowadays almost everything around us, every electric device, is a smart one, from smart cars to smart production lines, and I think Bosch knows a lot about this. We say that the world is becoming one giant computer, and why is that? It is estimated that each year around 10 billion microcontrolled equipped devices are connected into the global economy. And they will be part of this digital transformation and part of these four big trends that will drive the future. So this is the four technologies, A, B, C, D, of digital transformation and the next big things that we believe in.
Yeah, thank you for your very structured answer. And I like the fact that you've touched on the B2C segment of Microsoft, right, with the devices. It's important to see that innovation doesn't only affect businesses, it also affects the end customers, right? And it has an impact on them as well. And in this thought, I'd like to continue with Tobias because Bosch also has a diverse portfolio, right? You also do innovation for the B2B segment. You also do it for the consumers. And what I want to know is, aside from the innovations that you've worked on in the past year, or maybe even more, is who drives the innovation and who drives the need for innovation? Is it the consumers? Is it the companies? Is it both? Or is it you guys trying more and more to figure out what problems we have as a society or as individual people and trying to solve them?
Yeah, let me start with the point. Our slogan, what I said, is invented for life. So everything what we do is connected to this to bring a benefit. So if we look now in the view of innovations, doesn't matter if we talk about energy consumption, as Bosch has decided from 2020 onwards, we are CO2 neutral company on the large scale. And this kind of responsibility we also transform to the view in direction of business, to consumer, and to other environmental relationships as well. So in this regards, for example, as Lucian has already mentioned, that we have a lot of data getting together. We are also then looking on how do we need to reorganize ourselves in this way of manner, innovation in an organizational manner, yeah? To say, okay, with whom do we need to partner to find further possibilities, like we are doing now with the software, that we are going to change our whole organization, partnering, for example, with Microsoft in these activities, building bridges also for other companies to step inside to ensure that we have the possibility to generate a huge contribution to the society. Yeah? And this is the driver from our perspective for the invention itself, yeah? That we say it needs to contribute. It's not just a purpose by itself, it has to contribute to our environment, because then you generate also, or you see the need there, because as we have seen already in speeches today, yeah, there need to be a problem to be solved, a job to be done, yeah? And the things need to be connected. As we see, we have a lot of data getting into the cloud, and these possibilities to make it more transparent, to generate several layers where a lot of other entities, companies can connect to generate out of this further innovations. That's our purpose, what we like to drive to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Aline, I know that you at Cognizant, you do innovation that is made to measure on your customers' needs. And before this panel, we've had a presentation where Yuri discussed about the meaning of the word innovation, basically, and how it has become sort of like an umbrella term, a marketing buzzword. And what I want to know from you, aside from what you consider to be innovation, is do your customers specifically look for the things that you would call innovative, or do they just want good solutions that are very well fit to their needs and to their plans for, I don't know, launching new products or expansion or whatever?
Yeah, so let's start with innovation. I mean, there's so many definitions. For me, nowadays, it's quite simple. Innovation is a way to stay relevant. If you think about it, if you're not innovative, you're not relevant anymore. So as simple as that. Now, from our perspective, innovation is the implementation of an idea in a way that brings value for the consumers eventually. Because I think creativity is the way you bring ideas, and innovation is the way you implement it in a way that's with value added. So that's what we do and partner with our customers so they can stay relevant in their fields. As for the solutions, I think it's very important not to try to chase the newest things or the most innovative solutions, is to try to find the right solution according to their budget, timeline, customer experience and customer expertise also. Keep all those factors in mind when providing some solutions, and then iterate, as the previous speakers said here, iterate and do the MVPs, learn from it, use data, it's really important now, to learn, to see if your innovation brings value. Now, of course, as we have many Fortune 500 companies in our portfolio, innovation is a must for them to remain in that 500 top. But it's very important from an idea and the whole process of learning and iterating and using a strategy and data to measure it. The process is also very important. So that's also what we try to do when implementing a solution.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Vlad, you at Bento Intellectually Curious, you basically do the same thing, but on a slightly smaller scale, right? And I just want to repeat the question that I've asked Alin before. How are your customers viewing innovation? Do they ask you for specific technologies that they've heard of, maybe something that they know is hip and cool, or do they trust you with the whole integration process and the whole innovation process? And also just give me some example of some of the products that you've developed and that you consider innovative.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to touch a bit on what is innovation, because it's, as you mentioned, it has already become a buzzword, and I think that most people relate to innovation in a way, in a very personal way. Most of people actually are expecting, when you think about innovation, to see breathtaking stuff, disruptive services and products. And it actually is not like that, and I always like to give the Facebook example. Okay, when Facebook came out, it wasn't really a game changer. It was a social media platform just like any other, and it turned out that it was very innovative in how it built itself. So this is something that also applies to us. We see and we do innovation in really small parts, in tweaks. Mostly is in our approach. I wouldn't consider ourselves as a company which is with its products by themselves at the forefront of innovation. We are expecting to get financing to a proper R&D project this year, so we will do that as well. But I think that for us, mainly innovation is in how we work and in how we design the stuff that we do, behind the lines. And I would, for example, I would give here our flagship product, the field service management solution. It doesn't look innovative, from a client's point of view, but it is innovative in how we've designed the system and that enables us in time to adapt and to be flexible in a certain way. So it's more of innovation for us, because, and now to answer your question, customers don't buy innovation, just like Tobias said, the customers buy benefits, buy value. I think that there was a time, 20 years ago maybe, when customers were buying innovation. But I think we are all fed up with this, let's say, superficial take. Every day we get this new disruptive app, this new disruptive service, and at the end of the day, it really matters how that thing really helps us, evolve, and how it is adjusted to our needs. So we don't sell innovation to our customers. Yeah, we sell benefits, and innovation for us, it's more like something that helps us to be better at what we do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a great definition of innovation. It really encompassed everything that has been discussed here today, and that I'm sure will continue being discussed. I want to go back to something you've said, like for you, innovation is the way you work at products, and I want to get to talking about company culture and how company culture influences the way that innovation is handled at a company level and brings results. What is it that you do to optimize the internal processes and to stimulate the employees in order to be innovative and creative and bring out the best solutions?
Yeah, so we still have a lot to do in that direction, but as you have rightfully pointed out, company culture is, I would say, one of the most important factors in driving innovations, because you don't really plan for innovation. Of course, when you zoom out, you can have some predictions. For example, if there's an God forbid, armed conflict, everybody expects that technology will advance. This is what happened. Of course, when you get, let's say, government incentives, maybe for private sectors, again, zooming out, you can see a lot of companies doing innovative stuff. But when you zoom in on a particular entity or company, you can't really plan for innovation. So what you can do is have the appropriate company culture, and that in turn creates the right environment. And so you actually just plant the seeds, and wait for the innovation to arrive, and for that we have designed, and we are constantly working on designing our teams and our way of working in order to adapt proper feedback into the loop, and to let people make mistakes, and to incentivize people to experiment on their own and to bring their own ideas to the table. And this is of course something which is maybe a bit hard to do in a fully operational context that we are, but it's nevertheless something that we strive doing. I don't think that we are the best in doing that, no, but it's one of our main focus right now. And we will keep exploring. I think that it's very personal experience, so to say. I mean, any company has its own drivers. Innovation, I mean, the need for innovation can come from the outside, let's say, from the need for profitability or whatever, from the need to enter a new market, but can also come from as a driver from the inside, from the management. So we have the outside driver, and we also have the inside driver. So now we're just planting the seeds, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah. So I wouldn't point my finger at. I can't point my finger at some specific things that we do, other than let people mistake and have an experiment and have a workflow that includes that in our operations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And speaking of company culture and innovation, I know that Cognizant has basically innovated company culture, right? It's something that you take great pride in, and I know you're constantly hiring new people. What I want to know is how did your, should I call it an experiment in hybrid work? Yeah. How did your experiment in hybrid work turn out? What are the results so far? And how are you managing to recruit so many people? Because we know there are shortages in various industries, but somehow you always are, oh, we hired 100 new people, we hired 300 new people, and we're talking about people with skills, with very specific industry skills. So yeah, tell us about that, please.
Yeah, so the whole COVID situation forced many companies and many fields to innovate, and we were included in that, because now we usually had a very high touch approach, both with our customers and with our community members. So now we found ourselves in a situation where engagement was harder because of the remote work environment. So what we did, for example, for that, an innovative solution for working with our customers were virtual tours. We had the concept using the tools, the digital tools. You could fly in to visit us from your couch in 1.5 hours, visit Romania, visit our headquarters, and then go back. So you get an idea. For our one of our, let's say, secret sauce is our communities. So we try to engage people in technical communities where they can learn from each other, connect with each other on a regular basis. Now, again, that was a challenge. Now that not everybody is in the same place, in the same office, we're working remote and so on. So what we developed was a branded tool that provides gamification. So community members can earn badges, can perform quests, can attend technical events in this platform. They can provide feedback. They will receive feedback, all in a gamification world. And that's helped us a lot in the engagement, and that's also an innovative process. So innovation is not only about technology or and AI and chatbots and big data and so on. You can innovate in a way you engage and interact with your customers and also with your team members. So that's something that we did and proven very, very resultful. And people like the sense of belonging. Even now, I think more than ever before, working from your home, alone, from your couch, from your bed, and so on, you need that sense of belonging. And I think that's what we're trying to do. Knowledge sharing, belonging, that's some of the, let's say, secret sauce that we employed.
Thank you. Tobias, I'm moving on to you and Lucian, of course, because Vlad mentioned like people are tired of hearing innovation, right? I want to know if if you think that people could become tired of innovation in itself. Like we've seen the world change a lot in the past years. It was the context that forced somehow dramatic shifts in both the way we live, the way we work, and everything like that. And we're talking innovation here, innovation there, and some technologies, some ways of managing teams and stuff like that. They're still here and they're considered good. But what I want to know is, do you think there could be a thing such as innovation fatigue? When we're talking about, like a company level, when you're saying, well, we're changing the way everyone works, I think this is going to be very good for the company, and also from clients and customer perspective, like, are people going to get tired of having to learn or relearn how to do something they previously did in the past, only because it will be easier for them at some point?
Yeah, quite interesting question. Maybe I can ask the question back. How many of us have a cell phone older than 5 years? I would say hardly anyone. Yeah? So I would say an innovation fatigue I don't see, because everyone likes to be state of the art with its own capabilities. Besides that, I would say, or as I have already mentioned, I see if you offer some kind of purpose, if you help solving some problem, then everybody will continue to like innovations. Then maybe not call it innovation, call it improvement. So maybe it's just a word what you can change in this direction. But from my perspective, innovation is something everyone will enjoy if it contributes to you. And if you would say creating an environment, as examples what you have shared so far, is from my perspective the thing which really drives that the people stay in touch, get connected. You need some further tools, and I really like this kind of examples, and the gamification is something I really like as well. But besides that, for example, we are having a lot of working students additionally. So about 10% of our associates we take as working students additionally on top, because they come in and ask questions. They look on the processes differently. They would like to get in touch, to be bonded with a company. And it's still important that they have this kind of close connection to a company, to experience a culture. And based on that, you can learn, if you have an open feedback culture, that you are really having the trust to the people, tell me what you like, what you don't like. And based on this, improvement is starting by its own. And that's the spirit and the trust what we give to the organization, to say, okay, get it really running and be open for feedbacks, for changes, and don't be resistant to changes. And if you have this kind of mood, and I would say our Bosch culture has proven this already several times, and especially in the automotive industry, as now a huge change is going on from hardware to software, with all these combustion engine to electrification, we are really in this topic since years already, and we do not hesitate to change.
Thank you. Lucian, same question, basically, but with you, I want to know, do you encounter like people saying, no, I don't need this new product, I don't care how good it is, I don't care that it's affordable to me, I just don't want to learn a new system, a new way of doing things? Is that something that you've encountered at Microsoft? Is it something you struggle with, having to make people understand how a certain innovation would benefit them on the long term?
Okay, so to answer this, I will go back 4 years ago when I first joined Microsoft. there was an onboarding process, a lot of presentations I need to go through about company culture, about how Microsoft is doing things, and something, expression, a sentence stuck in my mind, that we're always striving to provide the right product for the right customer at the right time. For us, it all starts with a business need. We don't go, so we're looking to understand what the customer needs and how we can help him, and then to find the right technology that can provide that answer. So to give you a straightforward answer, no, we haven't encountered that. Of course, technology, besides deployment of a solution, it means an adoption process for the company. And this is a process. This is a change management process and a learning process. But because we are always starting from what the customer is looking for, it's easier to talk about innovation. And just to give you just a couple of examples, there's a startup in Romania, it's called Footprints for Retail. They are building a solution on our platform. And it all started with a very critical need that retailers have. So nowadays, most of retailers have an online store. They have an offline presence as well. It's difficult for the marketing team to connect online customer with offline customers. They virtually have limited data on the offline customers. So what the solution does is uses AI to understand patterns and behaviors from offline shoppers, to connect those microsegments to online shoppers and virtually bridge that gap and enable a marketing team to promote, to deliver personalized offers for the right customers. Very, very, very interesting. So again, it all starts with the business need, and this is how we move forward. And that's why we continue to innovate, because we are always finding challenges where we don't have today the answers, but we might have them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Another question for you. It's related to the innovation fatigue I'm mentioning. Do you think that the current rate of innovation is sustainable long term? I know companies, they're pushing themselves to get ahead. They're doing all they can to be more innovative, to outmatch their competition, out-innovate their competition. And I think it's taking a toll on the employees, maybe even on the top management. It's a very competitive market. Do you think it's a sustainable rhythm? And do you think that innovation will at some point slow down, let us all digest everything that's been thrown into the market, maybe focus more on refining existing technologies than trying to develop new ones?
So I don't think that innovation means necessarily building a new thing. Building a better thing or improving on an existing thing, it's also innovation. From a personal standpoint, I'm also tech savvy. I hope so. My answer is that I hope so. This is one of the reasons that I joined the tech industry, because I like innovation. I like the pace that innovation has, and I hope it keeps this pace. I feel that as long as there is a need in the market for something new, there will always be room for innovation, and will always be people developing these new tools and new solutions. So yes, I think looking back in the history, I think that innovation will keep the same pace, and it will even accelerate. There are great things coming ahead. Quantum computers are just a few years away. I think Microsoft actually committed to bring one in 2025. Let's see how this goes. And other companies are working as well on that. This will accelerate even more the pace of innovation and so on. So I'm honestly very excited for the future.
Thank you. I'm not going to ask you this question because you've answered it to me on a couple of occasions. You've mentioned already AI, machine learning, the cloud. We've talked about 5G. Now you've brought quantum computing into conversation. So I want to move on to Tobias and ask him and the rest of the guests in our panel, what are the technologies you think are going to have the greatest impact in the next 10 years? and what technologies that are being hyped now maybe won't be relevant in the next 5 years? Let's make it interesting.
That's a good question, because if I have my Glaskugel with me, then I could tell you a bit more details. Unfortunately not. So, nevertheless, I think we have some major mega trends, as we have heard already. We have the topics of data, big data, then all these, I would say, activities linked to what we can generate out of these data. And there we will generate some further business needs, but also some further benefits, what we can contribute to the society. On the other side, we have the topic of mobility. We see a mobility change ongoing already, in direction of shared community, in direction of different services, the last mile, also connected to parcels and so on. So we see that we will have changes there. I would not say this will drop completely other things out at the moment, because we know, we have seen already today, only 12% of the top 500 Fortune listed companies are still there. So there will be for sure the same change ongoing. So I do not have the fear that this kind of change will calm down somehow. But I would say it is at the moment some kind of transformation ongoing, starting somehow, I would say, 2000 in this direction, last 20 years, where we are going now from hardware, from single area to zone, or even largely connected activities. So I have the opinion that this kind of connectivity, what we have seen and experienced as an example on the cell phone side, meanwhile, that this kind of device is enriched much more, that you can use it for keys and so on. So you need no purse anymore to take with you. No credit card. Everything you have there. Yeah? And if I could look at on the car, for example, you can say in a car I have about 50 cell phones like that. Some with a higher computing power, some less. And all these are now going to be connected. So it's not a single device. The car is a multiple connected device. And this kind of connection and links will go further. And what Lucian already said, this kind of data crunching, what we are going to do there to generate further innovations, ideas, improvements for all of us. This is, from my point of view, the basic megatrend that is coming up.
Thank you so much. Alin and Vlad, keep it short, please, because we don't have a lot of time left, unfortunately. What are the technologies that you're excited for?
First, I want to enforce the Tobias point. We see a very large demand in mobile development now. Now that the cars are also shifting to mobile operating systems like Android and the integration of CarPlay and all that, we see a large shift towards mobile development. Now, in my opinion, regarding the technology, I think AI is the biggest disturber that we'll find in the industry. Now we already have AI everywhere, in image processing, in our phones, in our computers, in our cameras that are filming now. They will have some automatic light adjustment and so on. So we already have AI everywhere, and this will go even further and further and further. That will make better decisions and even some tasks much better than us. So we can go and focus on creativity, innovation, and other things that matter.
Thank you. Vlad?
Okay, so I would have to pick, I would say, genetic engineering as a technology that is definitely going to be there and stay and change our ways of lives in ways we don't even think about it. I'm not really excited about it, but it's clear that it's happening already. And then another one is, of course, in the area of AI, machine learning. I think we're only at the beginning of what we are actually going to do with it. But as it is with machine learning, we don't know, we can't really know the future because it's pretty spontaneous. Yeah, I think most of the obvious use cases are already there, but I think we are yet to see some others. And now I will pick from your list one that I'm not a fan about. Yeah,
no, the list was open to anyone. Like,
yeah.
You can contribute to it. Like
anyway,
but
it's just a topic that I'm not a fan about. It's the metaverse, which first and foremost I don't consider is technology. It's just an hyped up umbrella term. I do believe in the underlying technologies, but I really don't, I'm not a fan of the whole hype around the metaverse in itself, because I don't think we as humans are now, we as people, are now very driven into going deeper into digital avatars. I mean, I think we are already beginning to see a desire to go back to the real world and, back to nature. Yeah, but genetic engineering is definitely my bet, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think Lucian would disagree with you, considering that Microsoft is pretty invested into the metaverse. Unfortunately, we don't have further time for this debate to go on, but for all of you that have watched this panel, the speakers will be around, and you have a full hour to go ask them yourselves if you have any other curiosities regarding innovation.